How do I honor God with our lips and our hearts, and at least move toward that in our constant conversion to Christ? It's not an easy task, my friends, and that's why we need the Holy Spirit to help us. Because in our frailty, in our weakness, we don't always hit the mark. But God is ultimately patient, and that's the good news too. This young adult group this summer planned a service week. It was a trip. It was a mission trip, if you will. And about 10 of them, I should say, 10 of them hooked into a program that's sponsored by the Glen Mary Fathers. Glen Mary, they are known for their home missions, and especially in the Appalachian Mountains. And so in Kentucky, these 10 young adults, very urban, very Latino, very American, chose to go to the Appalachians and live as the people do and serve the people there. When they came back, they shared their stories and what touched their hearts. They shared stories of just meeting very humble, quiet people who live very simply and very poor. They said that, to have to go to a river to bathe was something very, very different for them. It made them stop and think about, well, how is it that we're living our lives? And what is it that we prop up as important? I believe that it's only when we put ourselves in positions where our lifestyles are challenged by others who live differently that we more clearly see what we're really doing. I couldn't help but think of these young adults in that Appalachia trip when I read the second reading today from St. James. Be doers of the word and not hearers only, lest we delude ourselves. It's easy to fool ourselves when we just hear our faith. It's easy to delude ourselves when we just get comfortable and do our time 1 hour a week at Mass. It's another thing to act in service and in love in maybe ways that challenge us. James also points out that it is when we serve the widows and orphans and we care for them that this doing of the word comes to fruition. Widows and orphans in Jesus' time and in Jesus' culture were those who were vulnerable and on the margins. They didn't have anyone to care for them, so the community had to care for them as mandated by Jewish law. And it was adopted, obviously, by the early Christians. This mandate from James is I think, a challenge to us today in 21st century to ask ourselves, well, who are those folks in our midst and in our world that our society forgets about? Who is it that we would rather pass by and not think about? Jesus says those are the ones that we ought to be caring for especially. That's doing the word. And in this we work toward being undefiled, not stained by the world's values. This is a call to holiness, my friends, and that's why we're here today. We gather to receive Eucharist and to be Eucharist and to give thanks to God for the many gifts that He's given us, but also to be strengthened by this very presence of Jesus here with us this evening. So it is my hope and prayer that indeed in our schools and in our work, in our families, that the gospel may permeate our hearts, that we may be indeed doers of the word, and that as the Spirit cleans us and purifies our hearts, that we may share that in good news with others.